Traders, how are you? With Marcello. Today we're going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Let's get started. So overall for the week, markets were definitely higher. We have a bunch of strange things going on. There's a mayor in the volcano that keeps going off in Spain that wants to bomb the volcano. We have an electric operator in Spain doing a test to see if they're going to have any outages, which I think is really weird because remember I told you guys last week how the governments of Germany and Austria were just advising their population of what to do if there's a blackout. And we have some other freaky things going on as well. So overall for the week, U.S. markets record highs again. If it wasn't such a Frankenstein world, markets are just going to go up forever. They're going to be fine. European markets also mostly higher for the week as well. Istanbul was the biggest winner in that market. Latin American and Canadian markets mostly negative. Canada was at negative 0.73%. And then in the far east, we have Egypt with the biggest winner there in the Middle East and Africa at over 3%. And in the far east, we have the Philippines, Salamat po. I'm sure I have some viewers out there. Negative 3.32%, the biggest loser there. Most of the markets there in Asia were mostly negative. Overall for the week, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, Ethereum to the moon. Record highs for Ethereum at over 4,400. And then we have, you guys ready? Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu. Shiba, the best shitcoin at the moment, went up by 20% on Friday. There's also another, in Spanish, I call them diarrhea coins, right? Because it's like, it's a dog. It was made as a joke. It's not that you can't make money. Don't fall in love with it, right? Put your money in. It'll blow up. You'll make millions of dollars. That's not financial advice, by the way. But, Squid Game was another diarrhea coin that went up by 75,000% in a week. It was inspired by that famous show on Netflix that everybody watches. I don't know what it's about, but it's been in the news a lot. And then Shiba also is going to be listed on a Robinhood competitor called Public.com. And if it does ever hit Robinhood, watch out because that's where all the meme traders are at. So that would probably have a lot of demand if it hits on that probably soon. The most expensive NFT ever was sold for 124 Ethereum, which is just over $69 million. If you guys don't know what NFTs are, there's a non-fungible token. Think of it like digital art or a digital song, just a digital product, for example, that you can buy that you only have the ownership to. It's on the blockchain, so it's completely unique. El Salvador added 420 Bitcoins to its reserves. And then in addition to that, Walmart also is stepping up. They're saying they're going to accept Bitcoin as well for their payments. Overall for the week, Bitcoin did reach a record high, if I'm not mistaken, last week or the week before, but it's up 1.51% this week at $61,737.60. In commodities overall for the week, crude was down after a bunch of weeks to the upside. U.S. crude was down minimal, just 0.22%, while international, which is Brent, went down by about 2.16%. And then copper prices rallied on Monday as fears mount of a global supply shortage in China on the stockpiles in Shanghai. Because if you guys didn't know, most of the commodities in the world, a lot of companies and countries, they keep stockpiles of them. If you guys remember, I believe it was about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I told you guys how China, having stockpiled a lot of the commodities, was starting to sell commodities on the market to be able to control the price because the price was just getting outrageous. Well, the warehouses there in Shanghai of copper have gone down to the lowest level since 2009, which is the 12-year low. And obviously a lot of the commodities, which is, oil and gold and silver and nickel and all these kind of the physical products, think of it, right? They've all been going up due to the fact that we have these supply chain shortages. You can't reach them from one week to the next. And that's what I'm going to explain to you guys about a lot of the electric electric generation around the world, still anywhere between 30 to 50 to 70% depending on the country, is still fossil fuels. And remember, even Texas, for example, if you guys remember that huge freeze that they had in the beginning, I believe, of this year, 2021, was actually because the renewables weren't able to produce the energy, so the system basically just collapsed. And in Germany, if I'm not mistaken also, which was at the end of last year, the winter as well, they had also problems with their electric generation because the renewables, there was no wind, right? No sun in the winter, no wind, no electric generation. So I'm going to explain that to you guys in just a moment. Precious metals for the week went down. Gold is down 0.43%, while silver went down 1.70%. Financing and bank news, the Eurozone inflation is at a 13-year high in September, and that's based on the official numbers, right? Remember last week I explained to you guys how, for example, in the U.S., the official inflation rate is at about 5.2%, where food is going up by the most in 30 or 40 years, double digits, 10, 20, 30, 40%, depending on what we're talking about. The official rate is only 5%. Don't worry. Everybody believes that because at the store, they're spending 30% more every time they go to buy stuff. Other than that as well, there's going to be a dramatic increase in spending on healthcare services and transport in the UK. The British finance minister, called Rishi Sunak, announced that he wants to increase over $207 billion, obviously because they're not going to steal it, right? These corrupt politicians, they're not going to do that. They're going to give it back to the community, obviously. He says that that's going to deliver a stronger economy, stronger growth, and the UK is going to recover faster than any major competitors. And then in the economic news, so OMIE, O-M-I-E, which is the electric company for the entire Iberian Peninsula, which is basically Portugal and Spain, they are going to test the electrical grid on November 3rd for decoupling events. Partial decoupling or complete decoupling, basically if the electric system goes out for whatever reason, right? So if you guys remember last week, I told you that the governments of Germany and Austria were advising the population about what they should do if there was a blackout. Now we have an electric company which is testing that as well. I know I'm crazy. I know the zombies are going to come eventually, right? But I think we're going to probably have some shortages. And if we just think analytically about this with the supply chain problems that we have, if you guys remember, there was a factory in Europe that couldn't buy the commodity that they needed to be able to produce the energy because it was just too expensive. Whereas in China, if you guys remember, I believe about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I told you guys how the government was mandating that a lot of the warehouses shut down because they needed to save electric. Like, this is already happening, right? So I got some numbers here in the United States and Europe overall. United States is 58% fossil fuels. So we're talking about carbon and natural gas and things like that. We have 19% nuclear and 23% renewables. So even if just 10 or 20% of the fossil fuels aren't delivered, or there's a problem with the supply chain, which we're having a huge problem with right now, that means that 10 or 20% of the electric is going to go out. Now, remember, go back and look at what happened in Texas. It's deep freeze. Just look at, water pipes busted Texas on Google. Maybe I'll find some of the pictures to put them on here. But literally, it got so cold at one point where the pipes, I shouldn't laugh because it's not funny, but the pipes just busted and the water just froze coming out of the pipe. It just literally froze. It was that cold. So I would recommend, I think the preppers were right. I would recommend you maybe buy some canned food, get some peanut butter, high in calories, good protein, because if the energy, if the system does go out for maybe a day or two, maybe a week or two, I think it's going to be more like 30 days or 45 days. You're going to have a little something to go on, okay? Europe, for example, 50% fossil fuels, 50% renewable, and they're the most, they're kind of the biggest proponents of the renewable energy train. Farmers' cost to grow food is exploding 100 to 300%. Nitrogen and also glyphosate, which is one of the chemicals that they place on the food to be able to get rid of all the pesticides or, all the, and in Spanish we say maleza. It's basically all the stuff that the weeds and everything that they don't want to grow. So the challenge here is that not only is food going up, so imagine that at the production level, it's costing them 100 to 300% more. At the production level, imagine what it's going to cost when it gets to retail. And a lot of these grocery companies and supermarkets, they're not even pricing the product until all of the inputs arrive, meaning that they know what all the costs are, which means less food and a lot higher price. So even if you do buy some canned food now, or some of this food that lasts 25 years, for example, it's going to cost you 20, 30, 40, 50% less now than what it's going to cost 2 or 3 months from now, because I think we're probably going to start having problems in December. Germany, which is the Europe largest economy, remember, if I'm not mistaken, it's the 4th largest economy in the world. They did a business climate survey from the IFO Institute, and a lot of companies are increasingly pessimistic across services, manufacturing, and trade, which means that things are not headed in a good direction. And official data released on Wednesday in China from industrial companies saw their profits rise at a faster pace in September than we saw in August. Overall profits jumped over 16.3%. Particularly strong gains in energy and mining, and obviously the price of coal has absolutely skyrocketed. So these companies that they're, especially in places, emerging economies, let's say, where they don't pay the wages like we do in the West, like for example in Europe or the United States, their price to mine a lot of these products doesn't necessarily go up, but when they go to sell the product, it costs the same price to mine, right? Because their input costs don't really go up. What do they need? Maybe some machines, labor, things like that. So when they go to sell the product, obviously the product has gone up because of inflation, so their pockets are nicely filled. And remember, don't forget, the like button has not gone up in price. So make sure you hit that like button because it helps a lot. And other than that too, so those of you guys, there was a comment I saw on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, you can go ahead and search for Day Trading Academy English or Marcello Arrambide on YouTube so you can see the videos as well, since I do some videos on there that don't appear on the podcast. Other than that, we have a situation where the U.S. economy is growing way less than expected in quarter 3. In quarter 2, we were growing at a 6.7 annualized rate, whereas now in the quarter 3, we're at a 2% annualized rate. So things are definitely not going with the decisions that the government is making. But we do have good news. The labor market actually increased and the unemployment benefits dropped to the lowest level since March of 2020, which was basically right at the beginning of the pandemic. So that's something that's good. The labor market at least is opening up a little bit. Corporate news, McDonald's, they're even increasing their costs. They made an announcement saying that due to the input prices going up and even labor prices, in food services, for example, in the United States, the average cost of an employee has gone up by 8%. So even McDonald's, for example, is raising their prices. Facebook missed both their revenue and their user numbers for quarter 3. They also announced they're going to change their name to Meta because they're creating a metaverse where you and I can live and pay for expensive NFTs in the virtual world. What's the worst that could happen? Skynet. They're coming to kill us. The zombies are coming. The digital zombies are coming. Microsoft also became the world's most valuable company after Apple missed its earnings expectations. So Apple went down, Microsoft went up. So now Microsoft is the most valuable public company in the world. They surpassed the Saudi Aramco, which is the state-owned oil company of Saudi Arabia, early last year in market cap. Market cap to me doesn't really mean anything anymore because obviously you have all these companies buying their shares and things like that. So, but everybody still talks about it. So shares of Alphabet, which is the owner of Google, went up by 4.96%, their stock went up by almost 5% because their revenue in quarter 3 exploded by $19 billion from one year to the next. Their stock is up 66% in 2021. Twitter fell almost 11% after they missed their projections. And Ford net income, even though it was down 25% from one year to the next because of obviously the chip shortage, their net income was at $1.8 billion and the stock surged to a 52-week high. Hertz Global Holdings exiting from bankruptcy, the rental car company. They announced that they're going to buy 100,000 Teslas and they're going to be delivered in the next 14 months. This is great news, obviously, for Tesla fans and people who buy Tesla. But one question I have, didn't Tesla have a problem producing cars and now all of a sudden they have 100,000 cars to deliver in the next 12 months? Does that not sound weird to you for some reason? I mean, I remember literally a few months ago, they were having problems because of the supply chain issues. Now, all of a sudden, they have 100,000 cars to deliver. I don't know, Rick. Other than that, the people that are going to rent the cars, which are going to be in a lot of the major locations in the United States and Europe, people who rent the cars will be able to access the Tesla charging network, while Hertz is also going to build its own charging network. In spring, in the U.S., the trade news, the wheat futures hit a 10-year high due to the fact that global stocks are soon going to increase, and a lot of countries have actually started to restrict the exportation of their wheat. The corn futures also exploded to their highest level since August 17th, even though the sales data and the weaker crude prices dragged soybean futures lower. Shares of Moderna exploded after they had positive data from key clinical trials on its COVID-19 vaccine. So they're going to start giving it to the kids age 6 to 11 after the 2 doses. Their stock is up over 230% in the last year, meaning year over year. And shares of Nvidia also rose quite a bit on the expectation now that Facebook is going to do this metaverse, that obviously they make a lot of the graphics cards for a lot of computers and things. So their expectation is that it's going to be beneficial for them because a lot more people are going to want to live in the virtual world and get attacked by artificial intelligence. Monday, in investment news, Evergrande Group is saying that they're resuming 10 projects in 6 cities after their whole almost going bankrupt debacle. If you guys don't know, the real estate market, which is $5 trillion in China, is about 25% of the economy. So if they would not have bailed out the Chinese government, if they would not have bailed out Evergrande, then we probably would have had a serious problem in the global economy, especially considering that the real estate market in China is 25% of the economy, and remember that China is still the second largest economy in the world. Other than that, in international events, Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen, I hope I said that right, they are confirmed to be a small number of U.S. troops on the Taiwanese island training the Taiwanese army, obviously to be able to go ahead and help from a Chinese invasion. The president also said that he's confident and has faith that the Americans are going to defend Taiwan, just like they defended Crimea, which was a part of Ukraine. If you guys don't remember that, basically Russia just came in and took Ukraine during the Obama administration, and they didn't do anything about it. They just let them have it. So I'm sure I'm sure the Americans are going to do the same thing now and help protect Taiwan. And in natural disasters, we have a huge X-class solar flare, which is on the higher strength side. A solar flare is essentially, think of like a solar storm. So the sun obviously is literally like a fusion reactor. So the sun explodes every once in a while, or has explosions on its surface, and then those storms can head in different directions. This one is heading towards our direction. Supposedly it's going to hit on Halloween, which is October 30th. Or a day before, right? I think Halloween is on the 31st. Let me look at the calendar here. I think so. And one of the things that's really interesting about this is that we had one of these storms, which is called the Carrington event in 1859, which took out our electrical grid. A lot of people reported, the electrical lines that you see on the street, they were literally just smoking and burning on the street. And it was the telegraph system that we had at the time that was our electrical system. The last storm of this type that we had missed us by 9 days in 2012. And it'd be interesting because obviously if we have a direct hit from one of these storms in the sun, it would literally wipe out our entire electrical grid. And the only place where they make these transformers for the electrical grid is in Germany and South Korea. So how long do you think it would take in order for the electrical grid to be able to come back? In addition to that, there's a very rare hurricane that formed in the Mediterranean that hit Sicily. Not only do they have the volcanic eruption of Etna going on right now, but it was just, it's literally appeared like the apocalypse. There was water everywhere in the city of Catania, which isn't the capital, but it's on the eastern side of Sicily, which is the island in the south of Italy, called the Medicane, which I thought was really interesting because I don't remember ever hearing a Mediterranean hurricane for the last 20, 30 years when I was a kid. And other than that, another thing that's really interesting is the Volcano La Palma, which is still exploding right now, one of the most serious eruptions that they've had almost ever. Probably, the article I read said 100 years. The mayor from one of the islands next door wants to bomb the volcano on the backside to try to reroute the lava so it won't destroy his city and his island. what could go wrong? Let's just bomb a volcano. No problem. Yeah, just that's a few earthquakes there happening every day, a few hundred actually happening. No problem. So that's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave